Hello and welcome to SoVT Book Talk. I'm your host, Karen Simpson McVicker, and I'm thrilled that you've joined us for episode 5 of our fun new look at what's happening in the literary scene in Southern Vermont. I'm joined once again by Jess Hunsaker, who is the events coordinator at the Northshire Bookstore in Manchester. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Karen.
It's the first time we've seen each other in the new year, so Happy New Year. It's great to see you again.
Yes, you
and
too.
you have brought a wonderful author here to be with us today. Why don't I let you introduce her?
Okay, thanks, Karen. Now, I've brought with us Kim Van Alkemade.
Thank
She's
you.
a friend of Northshire and just a lovely lady in general, so I'm very excited to be here today. And I've got a little intro. I'm going to read off a little bio for you. Now, you are the New York Times bestselling author of the historical novels Counting Lost Stars, which we're going to chat about today, Orphan Number 8, and Bachelor Girl. And born in Manhattan, she grew up in New Jersey and went to college in Wisconsin, where she earned a PhD in English. And for many years, she was a professor at Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. Now a full-time writer, she resides in Saratoga Springs, New York, with her partner, their 2 rescue dogs, and 3 feisty backyard chickens.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, they're not too feisty right now in the cold. They spend all day huddled on their little perches. So
It's really cute. Well, will you tell us a little bit about Counting Lost Stars?
yeah, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Jess, for inviting me. This is really fun. I'm excited. So Counting Lost Stars, I think about how to sum it up for you. I think of it as the story of 2 young women who are each trying to find the courage to make decisions to save the ones they love. And there are 2 timelines. So the novel goes back and forth between New York City in the summer of 1960 and the Netherlands during the Nazi occupation during World War II. And the novel is about those 2 things because it's sort of weirdly inspired by my 2 parents. My dad lived in Rotterdam. He was a little kid during the bombardment of Rotterdam, and his whole childhood was basically during the war under occupation. Very stressful, but his family was Calvinist. They weren't Jewish. Everybody survived. They got through, but it was scary. One of the bombs fell right in their backyard, and then the next one on the house across the street. But their house is still there. You can see it on Google Maps. One of my aunts took me to visit it. And then he emigrated after the war when he was in his 20s, and he met my mom in the Empire State Building. They both worked in the same office, and she was a little younger. She's a Jewish girl from the Bronx, and they got married. And so they have these really different backgrounds. And when I was thinking about the Netherlands World War II story, I really wanted another story to kind of get you out of that, but also to show you how history just continues to influence. It's not really ever in the past. So in 1960, Rita Klein is a young woman. She's just been pressured to give up her baby for adoption. She's not married. She was pregnant. And in the 1960s, it's known as the baby scoop era, so it was very typical. Parents would be so ashamed, and they'd send their daughters off to an unwed mother's home, sometimes in the middle of the night. And the social workers were pretty much trained to convince women to surrender their children for adoption. And if that's the right choice for you, that's amazing. But a lot of the young women felt that was not really a choice they were being given, but kind of the only option. So Rita has just returned from the unwed mother's home. She's surrendered her baby for adoption, and she is really, everybody says, okay, that's done, forget about it, go on with your life. And she's like, whoa, how do I do this? And she takes a job at an office in the Empire State Building, working with computers. Because she was in college, she started learning about computing machines, and she can program computers using punch cards. And so this is her skill. And at the Empire State Building, she meets a young man who's an immigrant from the Netherlands, a survivor of the Holocaust named Jacob, and they start a relationship. The other timeline in World War II Netherlands is about Cornelia Vogel. And she's a character who was inspired by some real research into the use of punch card computers to organize the Holocaust, which was true. And so her character is working in I called it the Ministry of Information. It has a very complicated Dutch name, but it's a slightly fictional version of it. And she's processing punch cards, but she doesn't really know what they're for. You know, if you ever see a punch card, it's like an index card about this big with little holes in it, little columns. And unless you know the codes, it means nothing. It's just holes in paper. And as Cornelia comes to understand that what's happening is the Ministry of Information, under orders from the Nazi occupiers, is compiling a census that will identify and locate every Jewish person in the Netherlands, which did happen with really tragic accuracy. And Cornelia's lover, her neighbor, Leah, is Jewish. And so Cornelia finds herself, she's like, wait, now I understand what my work is being used for. What am I going to do about it? And so she makes a very dramatic choice in what she's willing to do. And eventually, the stories meet. And not until pretty late in the novel. And one of the things I really like about that structure is it sort of has this built-in mystery, like, wait, how are these two stories going to come together? And it was an idea I had really from the beginning, the sort of the plot and the structure. My initial outline pretty much held together, but as you know, as you're writing, things on the ground change. And I'm very much a person, a lot of writers will say they write from the inside out. They're like, I know my character. I've met writers who write like their characters' diaries to understand their soul. And then they're like, okay, I'll take this creation and set them on a path. And I'm like, I'm more like an architect, I guess. I'm like, here's my plot, here's my structure, and my characters sort of move around like little wooden marionettes until I get to know them. And then they help me understand, why are you doing this? What do you want? And it takes me quite a few drafts until I kind of find the heart of each character.
Do they ever surprise you?
They do, because sometimes I'll have like on my plan, like, then this character will do this, and I try to write the scene, and the character's like, no, I would never do that. And so I'm like, okay. So in general, like the outline holds together, but in the specifics, it shifts a lot because it all has to feel authentic, or the scene I thought would happen a certain way happens a different way, or the character I thought would do this, I give that action to a different character. So there's a lot of change at that level, but I guess for me as a writer, I sort of need to know where it's going to end, because it gives me, I guess, the courage to start.
I think we're very similar in our writing and our plotting styles. Yeah, that definitely rings true to me. So I see you've brought some books, some research books. Talk a little bit about your research process.
So the two main books I brought along, because I definitely want to give credit here. So this is a book by Edwin Black. This was published in, I think, this 1980s. It's called IBM and the Holocaust. And so this is not something, 2001. This is not something I discovered. This is a journalistic nonfiction book that really goes in incredible depth about the role of the IBM Corporation in developing the Hollow Earth computers that were used in many industries in Europe, but then also the role of IBM in continuing to support the use of punch card computers even after Hitler took over Germany. In fact, Hitler gave Thomas Watson a medal that he finally had to return after we went to war with Germany. And so the book is a lot about like the corporation, but it's also about the technology. And it really interested me. We are taught about the Holocaust as something so vast and evil that it's almost unimaginable. There are people who won't even believe it happened. And yet, when I learned that the reason it achieved such a scale and efficiency was because it was organized with business machines. And there was something about the tension between this sort of mundane technology and this sort of incomprehensible human evil that really was interesting for me. And so IBM and the Holocaust, I'd read years ago, sticks in my mind, who knows how I'm going to write a story about it. And then when I thought about sort of using my parents as a very vague template, it's definitely not a biography, but thinking about how to bring two different worlds together. And I thought about my mom growing up in the 1950s in New Jersey. And I know she told me about a friend she had in high school who went away, came back a few months later. It's like, we never speak of this again. And so the other big inspiration book, this is by Ann Fessler. It's called The Girls Who Went Away. And it's a collection mostly of interviews and testimonies from young women in the 1950s and 60s who sort of went through this process of, okay, you're pregnant, but you're not married. Now what? Unwed mother's home, sign the papers to surrender your baby, go home, pretend it never happened, don't tell anybody. And one of the things that was really interesting in reading this book was how repetitive their testimony was, because it was a script. Like I said, social workers learned what arguments or what techniques would be most effective in convincing a young woman to surrender her child if that wasn't really what she wanted. And so that was really interesting to me because I understood it as a larger system and a system with a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And
parallels
yes.
between the systems. So
yeah, so I guess really I'm kind of in this book really interested in the way these systems are working on the young women, and then how they can navigate that and what they can do about it.
Wow, that's so wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on and
thank
sharing
you.
with us. That's just amazing. I can't wait to read it now. I think it's actually on my TBR list. I'm good. I'll have to go and check. But now that I've met you, it's absolutely going to go to the top of the list.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. So Jess and I do something every month where we talk. We call it Last Now Next. We talk about the last book we read, the next book on our list, and what we're reading now, Last Now Next. And we'd love it if you wanted to participate with us.
I'd love to.
Okay, great. Do you want to go first?
Sure thing.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, I have a very exciting one to start with. I read Henderson House. I read Karen's book.
Thank you.
I read it in 2 days, which is, I'm not a very fast reader. So sometimes I have to really kick it up for the show because I'm like, I got to be reading stuff. I couldn't put this down. It was the perfect balance between there being a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of tension, but also it was just so satisfying because the way everyone communicates, all of your characters are just lovely. But I actually, when I was reading it, I was thinking about your book because similarly, it is a story of two sisters who are also trying to figure out how to navigate world, keeping their family together and also honoring themselves and what they want as individuals. And there is this through line of a child in this book that we're not entirely certain maybe who's the mother. And so there's
that's the intrigue.
Yes. Awesome. But it's very sweet and very relatable. There are a lot of very relatable characters. So I loved it.
Exciting.
And then now I just picked this up, Hitchcock's Blondes, the unforgettable women behind the legendary director's dark obsession. So this is the same author of Capote's Women, who is Lawrence Leamer. And I haven't read that book, but I'm a huge Hitchcock fan. And I really find him as a director very compelling because on one hand, I really appreciate his work, but on the other hand, it's a little
out there.
A little out there, and very much micromanaged everything and was in complete control of everything on his sets, at all time, including these leading ladies of his. And so this investigates their stories, which I feel like is very important to do. And then next, I bought this. I'm very excited to start baking. That was something I said I wanted to learn how to do in 2024. I said, I'm going to take up, I want to investigate some new hobbies. And I like to cook, and I like to make pie. But I don't really tend to bake. But this guy is very funny. B. Dylan Hollis. He's on TikTok. He's on YouTube. And he makes these recipes that are kind of like long forgotten, but not like old, like things from anywhere from like the beginning of the 20th century to like 1999. So he has like a lot of like really weird things that come from regional cookbooks, that type of stuff, casseroles, cakes that have like mayonnaise in them, that type of thing. So there's a little bit of history alongside all of the delicious baked goods. I'm very excited to start getting into that.
All right, Kim, you want to go next?
Sure. I don't have them to show you, but I just read a book that's going to be coming out, I think, in March. It's called The Night in Question by Susan Fletcher, and I read it as an advance copy, and then immediately put it in an envelope and sent it to my mom to read, because she said, I really need a good book. I said, this is it. So it's about an elderly woman named Florence who's living in an assisted living home in England, and there's a mystery that she needs to solve. But the mystery, it's kind of like the little through line that brings you through the story of her life. And one of the things she says as a character is, when people meet you and you're 87, they think you've always been this way. But no, she's had a whole life, and it unfolds little by little. There's like a mystery about her backstory. There's the mystery of what's happening at the assisted living home. There's been an unexplained death. She's navigating some new relationships with other people at the assisted living home. And it's so hard to pull off an ending where, like, you've been prepared for the whole novel for this just lovely, touching moment without even really being aware of it. And when you get to that moment and it lands so perfect, I was like weeping tears out of my eyes. And that's hard for me because I read so much, and you kind of learn how to predict and guess, and it's hard to just be swept away. So The Night in Question by Susan Fletcher.
Perfect.
Right now I'm reading 1,000 Words by Jamie Attenberg. I'm actually listening to that as an audiobook. It's sold out, I think, at Northshire. I don't know about the Manchester location. It's, I think, number 9 on the hardcover bestseller. It's a little blank space on our wall saying, ask about this book. But we have them on order. And so she is a writer and a memoirist. She's written many novels, but she started a project called 1,000 Words of Summer. And it's kind of like a NaNoWriMo sort of thing, National Novel Writing Month. And you can sign up for her newsletter, and you get an email every day, and then other writers that she knows contributed little things. And she gathered it all together and turned it into a book. And reading 1,000 Words, it's not like an advice book about writing. The way I put it in my staff pick review is it's like going to the friendliest, most supportive writing conference you can ever imagine, where everybody's just sharing, like, this is what works for me, and encouraging you to just be the writer you already are. And so I'm listening to it, and it's really wonderful. And then next up is going to be Alison Pataki's book, Finding Margaret Fuller. I'm going to be talking to her at our event for Northshire in Saratoga, and so I'm so excited to meet her and talk to her about this novel. So this is the next one up, and it's a fictional, like historical fiction about Margaret Fuller, who was among the many transcendentalists and in Northern, and I was a Unitarian, so I'm just really excited about this one.
I want to read that too.
Yes. Oh, thank you. All right, so I will go quickly. So on my last, I read Northwoods by Daniel Mason over the holidays, and wow, I heard different things about it. You really don't know what to expect until you get into it, but it's brilliant. It's funny, it's intriguing. I mean, people are like, oh, I didn't know it would be like a collection of short stories. I didn't feel like it was a collection of short stories at all. I felt like the theme ran through everything so clearly that everything was connected for me. So I loved that. And then I know we always talk about things that are sort of mainstream, but I read a self-published memoir called I Can See for Miles by a woman named Holly Stewart that I actually met on my book tour in Oklahoma. She lives in Oklahoma City. And it's won every award possible. It's won like 14, every independent award it can win, it has won. And it's, if you enjoy stories of people overcoming childhood trauma, it's told, it's funny. It's like you're just sitting down having coffee with her. And since she and I have sort of struck up an author friendship, which has been really great. So I really enjoyed that. And I just started the Farewell Tour by Stephanie Clifford. And this is about a kind of second-tier country music star who finds out she's got some nodes on her vocal cords and decides to do a final tour, partially for the income, partially for the personal journey of wrapping up loose ends from the farm that she ran away from in Walla Walla, Washington. So it has a lot about the immigrant experience coming to Washington, both in logging and farming, that I was finding very interesting. And I just am getting into this, but so far I'm really enjoying it. And you can start to see, again, like you said, how we anticipate these small characters showing up. I'm like, okay, that person's going to be important. So that's really fun. And next on my list, I'm very excited to dive into The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. I'm like, yeah, I need me some Southern Gothic family drama, which is what this is. So I'm really excited to start this. And I was just gifted a copy of a book called Stepping Heavenward, which has very Southern Vermont book talk ties in that Elizabeth Prentice, the woman who wrote this, was born in Maine but lived in Dorset, Vermont. And Prentice Pond in Dorset, Vermont is named for her. There's a beautiful white Victorian house in Dorset that she built with the proceeds from this book, which was published in 1869. So when I'm ready for a little spiritual look at the lives of coming of age as a woman in the 1860s, this is definitely next on my list. And many thanks to her descendants who still live in the area and gifted me this copy. So got a lot. And now I'm adding Counting Lost Stars. So I'm ready for some cold weather reading.
The pile just grows and grows.
It's wonderful. Well, Kim, thank you so much. Thank you for being a friend of Northshire and coming and being on the show. We loved having you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And now we are delighted to be joined once again by Paige Vignola, who is the Assistant Director of the Manchester Community Library. Hi, Paige.
Hi.
Are you going to bring us up to date on what's going on at the library in February?
I'm going to do my best. So the first thing I want to talk about is our Super Saturday Family Fun Day. We do this twice a year. This is the second time we've been doing it in February. And it's going to be Saturday, February 3rd. And it's an all-day event. So it goes from 10 o'clock in the morning where we're going to have puppet shows happening for young kids all the way up through 4 o'clock. So through the course of the day, there's going to be a high school band from Long Trail, the Maple Road Band. Got both Stacy Gates and Kim Ray, two local artists coming in and doing two different art episodes, art workshops. Again, the puppet show that I mentioned. We're going to have a story time with a local author. There's going to be a winter art project. There's going to be a STEAM project with paper airplanes. I've got the Rollin' Rooster coming in as a food truck. Success Cafe is going to be selling food as well as Willoughby's. I think they're going to be bringing up some soup. So, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of stuff happening all day long. Just, general, hey, love the library kind of day. On a narrower focus, on February 7th, the library is hosting a community conversation. This is a conversation that is designed to support nonprofits in the area. So this is actually partnered with GNAT-TV, and Tammy Riley, who is the executive director over here, she's giving our keynote address, Navigating the Digital Landscape, Harnessing Media and New Technologies for Lasting Relevance. And after the keynote, we're going to have two different workshop sessions. Each session has 4 different options for people to participate in. And we've got Elizabeth Marks from the Vermont Community Foundation. She's coming in. And we're going to have actually Becky from GNAT. She's going to be doing stuff on AI. I've got Tori Rich and Sue Allen from the Bennington Banner and the Manchester Journal coming in order to be able to do workshops. Ty Paquette from Habitat for Humanity, John Burnham from Manchester Business Association, Bert from GNAT, he's also doing. So there's going to be a lot of different workshops that all of it is practical PD, practical professional development for nonprofits, and that's going to be happening on February 7th. So if you work for a nonprofit or you're interested in that, definitely go onto the library website. You can register for the event there. We have two, or I should say it's one, but it's going to be taking place on a couple different days, parent support groups that's going to starting up in February. So it's Raising Resilient Children Parent Support Group. It's a parent support group born out of the Raising Resilient Children speaker series. The second of that series, I think, is January 30th. And it's going to be a dynamic and nurturing community for parents in the Shires who are committed to enhancing their children's mental health and wellness. Speaker series serves as a catalyst for raising awareness, offering support, and then the group is going to actually be the parents who are listening and wanting to be able to sit down with others who are dealing with similar challenges. So in order to be able to accommodate people's schedules, it's actually going to happen once a month, but it's going to be twice a month, if that makes sense. You can either come to the Thursday, February 8th in the evening, 5:30 in the evening, or if you are unavailable in the evenings, they're also doing it February 12th at 10 a.m., which is a Monday. So again, it's going to be once a month, but there's two different time slots for each of those. Additionally, we just recently started a monthly cultural diversity community potluck event at the library. And then we just had our first one, I guess it was last week, and it was phenomenal. We're going to be doing it every month. The next one is going to be Thursday, February 15th. Last time we had hair braiders, we had face painters, we had a variety of foods from different cultures. There was a barber who was there. We had games for kids to be playing. We had a speaker from the NAACP. We're gonna that was last time. This one is still, we're finessing the details, but it's definitely going to be a monthly event, and next one is February 15th. Starts at 5 o'clock in the evening. And then the one that I'm also really excited about, definitely putting, I know I always say that, right? Like, oh, but I'm super excited about this one. February 24th and 25th, which is a Saturday and a Sunday. It's a 2-day, all day long wilderness first aid certification course. So this is, again, it's a time commitment, to be sure. So, because if you want to get the certification, you have to be there all day, both days, Saturday and Sunday. But the WFA course is geared towards folk with little or no experience in emergency medicine, but it's also appropriate for those who have, mainly front country experience, want to expand their breadth of knowledge. The certification course has reciprocity with the two largest wilderness medicine schools, NOLS and WMA. And this is an event that has been generously sponsored by the Mountain Goat. And so while it would normally cost somebody a significant chunk of change to be able to do the certification course, the Mountain Goat has supplied the funds to be able to have at least 10 community members who are interested to register and be able to participate in this course for free. Obviously, registration is required because it's can only take a small number of people due to the constraints both of the teacher's ability to interact with people present and the funding. So if you're interested in wilderness first aid certification, go to our library website, mclvt.org, and go register.
Wow, another.
Going on.
It may be a short month, but it's an exciting month.
It's an exciting
at
month,
the
yeah.
library. And what's happening down the road at Northshire?
Yes, we've got some exciting things happening. We're doing a really cute, fun little Valentine's craft. We're having an artsy afternoon with Stacy over at the Manchester Art Studio and Gallery, and that's also Saturday. She's going to pop over, I guess, around 2 o'clock and do that for us. And then the very following day, we are having a very, very special story time. Clifford the Big Red Dog will be visiting to celebrate his birthday month with us. We're going to do some stories and some photo ops. There's going to be crafts, and that's on February 4th at 11 a.m. Then I'm hopping over to the library for Maria Hummel. She's the author of the Reese Witherspoon and Hello Sunshine book club picks Still Lives, and she has a new novel out, Golden Seal. So we're doing a little collab on that. I'm very
Working
excited.
together.
1 o'clock, February 5th.
Yes.
I didn't mention that because I knew you would.
Oh, yes. And then we're having another event that's pretty cool. We had an author visit us in Saratoga, Amy Godine, and she will be coming to Vermont along with Vermont author Mercedes de Guardiola. And the two of them are going to discuss their works. They're both social histories. De Guardiola's book is called Vermont for the Vermonters. And it is like an examination of Vermont's eugenics. involvement, basically. And that there were several state-sanctioned programs that were pretty horrible. And so she's written an entire book about this, and she's very involved. So she's going to come and she's going to share this with us. I'm very excited.
I'm definitely coming to that.
Yeah, that one's going to be really good. And then Godine has written a book called The Black Woods, which chronicles the experiences of Black pioneers through the Adirondacks.
Oh, cool.
So the two of them are going to
be
talk
great.
in conjunction. I'm very excited for that one. We also have David Hellerstein. He's going to come. He is a professor of clinical psychiatry at the Columbia University College of Physicians, and he has written a book called The Couch, the Clinic, and the Scanner. And it's all about the evolution of psychology and psychiatry, and kind of like landing in present day. And so he gets to talk all about his practice and things like that. And that will be February 17th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then we're going to wrap it up with like a nice little mystery. Phil Bailey is going to join us to talk about his newest edition of his series, Murder on Skis. It's called The Man Who Had 9 Lives. And that'll be Friday, February 23rd at 6 p.m.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a full month of literary activity here in Southern Vermont. Thank you to both of you for being on. And until next time, happy reading.